Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in again. Today I'm going to talk about the piece I read of Plutarchs concerning the people of Laconia, Lakedaemon, the guys we today call Spartans, and what he had to say about the Spartans. He'd never met any Spartans, because at the time he left, Sparta was already long gone. We just have a few accounts about how Spartans actually lived and what they held for values, only by Herodot, Plutarch. I'm not sure if there's even more reliable sources. Well, I want to talk about the unusual or for us alienating customs the Spartans had. First of all, it might sound weird, but the Spartans looked down upon too frequent washing, and they basically saw it as a sign of weakness or softness if you wash too often. You can see they had a different view on certain things in life. Another thing that's really outstanding to our customs is that they really looked down upon wearing clothes, and they saw being naked or nude as a really good thing and saw it as a sign of culture and a sign of being civilized. In the late days of Sparta, they saw women starting to wear more and more clothes, extravagant clothes, wearing jewelry, and they really saw that as a downfall of Spartan culture and like huge decadence. That doesn't mean that they ran around nude all the time, but there were times when they were nude a whole lot of time, and they had like certain festivities where they were nude. The Spartans also are responsible for the nude performance of the athletes at the Olympiad, and that originates because the Spartans had a row of successful athletes, which they sent to the Olympiad, so that they really became admired for their athletic achievements there. That's why they had a big influence on how these competitions were held. At a certain time, they introduced the custom that the athletes had to be naked. Also, it's known from Agesilaus, the king of the Spartans, that he had not worn underwear under his skirt. He basically saw down upon it, wearing underskirts, because he saw it and made a man soft. He also wanted to be a role model for the younger Spartans, so that they get accustomed to being resistant to the extremes of the weather. There's a whole different things about the Spartans that's really unusual for them as peoples, as they always look down on decadent behavior, and they always look down on excesses. They had certain different periods in their short history, and that is basically there was a time before Epicure, before they turned to what we call Laconian way of living, which is really minimalistic and rejects all luxury goods and decadent lifestyle. And so it's a little anecdote where in modern day Turkey, I think, Minor Asia, in Minor Asia they had a military campaign, and some peoples who lived there wanted to get on good terms with Spartans, and they sent the Spartans all types of well-made foods and extraordinary dishes. And the king of the Spartans, who went with them, Agesilaus, he sent all of it back. He only kept the wheat so they can make bread, and he rejected all other goods they got. So basically, the Spartans saw it as a virtue to have a simplistic, minimalistic life. I think it's just a part of their history. It's not the whole history of their culture, but it's what they are known for, mostly. Another thing to know about Spartans is after they militarized their culture or their society, they usually focused or centered their whole life around militarism, and there was a lot of things they did to accomplish a big virtue in fighting. And that is namely training the kids in a young age in fighting, wrestling, like that. Also, they had a initiation rite where the young citizens had to go out and kill helot. A helot is something like a slave, but it's more like a farmer who has to pay a certain amount of his goods and has less rights than anyone else. So it's not what we think of a slave. It's a different thing, but basically it's a slave. It's the people who did the farming in Laconia, and they had several towns. It was not like a homogeneous group. It was basically the indigenous people before the Dorian entered the area and subdued them, and they were actually farming and giving percentage of their harvest to the Spartans. Spartans always try to keep the percentage of what they took from the helots small, so they won't grow decadent themselves. So basically, the initiation rite was to sneak into the outer areas and the remote areas where the helots live and kill a helot. It was an absolute shame to come to be discovered, and there were severe punishment for being not stealthy or not sneaky enough and being caught. The only problem you're going to get is if you don't get away with what you did, not what you did. There were also daily trainings, from what we know from Plutarch, and they always kept their shape. They basically had a whole bunch of customs surrounding the military life. Basically, every Spartan had his own shield, which he painted to his own accord. There's one story we know from Plutarch that is really outstanding, or interesting, I say. There was one Spartan who painted a little fly on his shield, and everyone laughed about him, and then he explained why, and as I asked him what he was planning to do with that, he said, this might look like a fly, but I'm going to come so close to the enemy that it will look like a lion. And this kind of like Spartan mentality. They always had this wittiness with them, and they also try to always play down fear by humor or this kind of wit. There's a lot more to tell from what I've read, and I'm going to make either another video or several other videos continuing this one, and I hope they might be as interesting as this one, and I would be glad to welcome you to join in again. Take care and have a good day.